Welcome to EAC Industry News. I'm Nick Bensley. Today we're going to be discussing what's been known in the industry as the Mr Fluffy Asbestos issue. Many of our members and agents and property managers in the industry are not aware fully of their rights and responsibilities regarding asbestos in houses that they lease and sell. Today we're joined with Mr Geoff Hunter, who is our Industry Liaison Officer at EAC, who's going to help us shed some light on this issue. Welcome, Geoff.
Thank you, Nick.
The Mr Fluffy issue arose because a company called Mr Fluffy was using loose fill insulation which contained asbestos in the 60s and 70s throughout the ACT. Is this issue contained just to that area?
Unfortunately, Nick, no, it's not just confined to ACT as we thought, and parts of Queen Anne where we thought it was overflowing to there. WorkCover in New South Wales have advised that there are 26 local government areas within New South Wales that now may be affected, and mostly in the south and eastern part of the state, but they've also identified in the Sydney metropolitan area Bankstown, Ku-ring-gai, Manly, North Sydney, Parramatta, Warringah and the Hills Shire as having real possibilities of that asbestos presence, the loose fill asbestos.
Agents and property managers have a clear obligation to ask clients about what type of insulation is used in their building. If the client is either unsure or can confirm that there is loose fill insulation used in their property, what is the best course of action for agents and property managers in that?
And that's a really relevant question, because you can't identify the asbestos content in loose fill simply by a visual observation. No. You do need the specialist to look at it. So I think the first step for every property manager and salesperson who's looking at a property is to ask the client if they know what the insulation is, if it is insulated, and assuming it is, and if they say yes, it's loose fill, then they must get then a specialist report on it, and that needs to be done quickly, because it is a material fact and does need to be disclosed to tenants who are making application for property and for people who may be looking at it from a sale perspective. But either way, you can't offer that property for sale or lease with the presence of that product in there. So it can be identified by a specialist, but certainly not visually, and they should get a proper specialist or a hygienist to give them a report before they take any action whatsoever.
If the report does come back as positive that the loose fill insulation used does contain asbestos, what should a property manager or agent do in that?
Well, from an agent perspective, it is most definitely a material fact and needs to be disclosed, but in reality you can't proceed with the leasing of the premises or the sale of the premises because of the presence of that product. And regretfully, we're told that there's no effective way of remediation for properties that have got loose fill asbestos contaminated insulation in their ceilings. It can have permeated its way down into the premises itself and outside into the grounds, and as they're now committed to do in the ACT, they look like having to demolish hundreds of houses there and then sanitise the blocks and then re-offer those blocks for sale if that's the way it goes. So unfortunately, from the vendor's perspective, it's a major problem, but from an agent perspective, they have a duty to advise the client of that, and then really they can't list it for leasing or offer it for sale.
From an agent and property manager's protectionist standpoint, does agents, professional indemnity insurance actually cover them in cases of claims made regarding asbestos?
Regretfully, the answer to that is no. Most agents, well, they all are required to have professional indemnity insurance now for the last 12 months since it was introduced, but they all, or many, think that it is covered, the asbestos risk is covered under PI, but it isn't. So they're on their own, and the reason they're not covered is that the reinsurers overseas that insure the insurance companies within Australian operations won't offer the policies where asbestos is involved. So there is no cover. So the protocols that we're advising agents to take are critical. You can't be involved in properties where this asbestos product is present.
Thank you for your time today, Geoff.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for shedding some light on this issue for our members. Further information can be found on the eac.com.au website, which is your portal to all the professional services that EAC provides its members and customers. Further information is there regarding all the listed suburbs in New South Wales that are possibly affected by this issue, and you should visit it for all that information and more. Also is your portal to getting access to Geoff and the agency practice support line, which are there to help you for free with all your agency practice and professional standards, policies and procedures.